Hello there and welcome. This is Mikhail or Michael speaking. First of all, I want to say thank you to all beautiful individuals who decided to support me financially on Patreon, thus improving my financial situation. Thank you very much and have a good day. Now, we will start with Bakhmut. So this is the best Ukrainian positions that they have within the city. Some people had been calling it Citadel. I think it's perfectly fits the description, so I will use it from now on. So this is the Citadel, the sector with high-rise buildings. As a result of Russian constant attacks from the Pulevaya street here, as well as street of Nosokova, Russians were advancing and were able to capture this entire sector from the Ukrainian forces, reaching the Citadel sector. Then Russians were also able to advance here by constantly attacking and furthering their success here around the old military base. About 24 hours ago, Russians were able to capture this small sector of the city, and then this sector followed soon after. So let me draw this again. So this is the territory that Russians were able to capture from the Ukrainians in the last 24 to 12 hours. Now, this report is especially fresh and came in just recently. There are reports coming in that Russians are not satisfied with whatever they have captured here, and the fighting for the citadel itself had begun immediately as Russians storm buildings in attempt to gain foothold within this high-rise building sector. Now, there are some reports that suggest that Russians captured a lot more of this street right here, about this much. This street is called Vyzvoliteli Donbassa, or if we translate it completely, Liberators of Donbass. Of course, in honor of those who fight it in so-called anti-terrorist operation, or basically a civil war within Ukraine. This shows that Russians again are attacking here along these secondary streets, and if this continues, they will soon reach this street right here and capture this territory. I believe it is possible. It is now up to this sector where fighting continues near the post office and Olympic School. The overall situation, as you can see, is as follows. Not only Russians are attacking here directly to this sector, they are also attempting to envelop this Ukrainian position, and we will see how this would turn out to be. Then we have a situation here. I also have a photo of this place for you to look at. So this is Tchaikovsky Street right here. This is the sector of high-rise buildings that Russians had recently captured right here. And this is the so-called Citadel starting right here. As you can see, Russians will probably not attack here within this church that is used as a bank. The Russian positions are, it would seem, are along these buildings right here. And this area right here is basically a gray zone or a no man's land or kill zone, however you want to call it. Anyone who steps in this open fields would obviously be killed. Now, it is unclear whether Ukrainians are having some troops here within those buildings. I would say not. It is impossible to supply those buildings without getting shot at. So again, gray area. With that in mind and not wanting to attack here, it would seem Russians had launched some offensive operations, and as some reports suggest, were able to establish a bridgehead to the west of the Tchaikovsky Street, capturing a church and some occasional buildings here. If we zoom out to see a bigger picture, we can see that this Russian attack is creating a bigger salient or a pocket for Ukrainian forces here that are remaining to the east side of the Tchaikovsky Street, with constant Russian attacks going on within the area of now destroyed Samolyot statue. Overall, Ukrainian positions in this pocket is compromised. Ukrainians on this road are defending extremely hard, having a lot of defensive positions here along the Tchaikovsky Street. One of the reasons why it is so convenient for Ukrainians to defend in this general area is explained by the amount of small but very usable roads for supply. So as you can see, many roads. And with Russians attacking towards these directions and perhaps gaining control over this sector right here, this supply would be compromised. Russians had also conducted limited military operations here towards Ivanivsky and around Khromove, as well as near and around 0506 road. It is unclear how much territory Russians are controlling. Latest reports suggest that Russians are controlling about this much. So they have physically cut the road and established some positions in the trenches. However, we need to wait for more confirmations on this front. Fighting continues in Bogdanivka, as well as Russians are slowly advancing towards Grigorivka, and fighting also continues in Orekhovo-Vasilivka and along E40 highway. Latest videos and photos that I cannot show you because of the big amount of dead bodies suggest that this road had become a kill zone for the Ukrainian troops and forces, as Russians have full fire control over it, destroying everything that moves on it. A lot of destroyed vehicles and armor spotted along this road. Situation in Seversk front remains the same. Russians are attacking towards Spirny, Verkhnekamiansky, Belogorivka and Grigorivka here. Fighting in Serebryansky forest continues. Note that this area right here is basically a marshland. However, this area right here is heavily forested. Within all those areas, Ukrainians and Russians have extensive lines of trenches, for which trenches Russians are battling out as of right now. So this is the reason why the front line isn't moving here in this front as often as anywhere else. Russians are also attacking from the general direction of Kremina towards Zarichne and in overall directions of this line towards Yampolivka, Terny, Nevsky and Makiyivka. Then we go to the Avdiivka front. Some sources are claiming that Kamyanka had fallen to the Russians. Once again, the sources that I trust didn't report it on it as of right now. But again, as you can see, the overall position of Ukrainian troops here is heavily compromised. Whatever Ukrainian troops are located here are under constant crossfire without any ability to be supplied. So what I would assume is that this entire sector is once again a gray zone, with Russian positions located here to the outskirts and in the vicinity of this small sector of buildings, and Ukrainian positions are located here along these lines, thus creating a perfect kill zone for whatever troops that are to walk to Kamyanka and try to establish foothold in it. Situation here to the north of Avdiivka remains somewhat stable as Russians continue to gain foothold within Krasnogorivka and attack toward Novokalinova. However, situation here is somewhat difficult for the Russian forces. One Russian military blogger, very influential one, had reported that because of intense fighting, Russians had lost their fighting capability here and are in need of resupply and regroup. So perhaps this is the reason why the front line hadn't changed much. Maybe a month ago Russians had captured one of the trench lines located in front of Avdiivka, and there's one more somewhere in the middle. So it's not looking good in this sector as of right now. Somewhat of the same situation is happening here, where Russians are attacking from Vadyani towards Severne, but overall whatever's happening in Apitne is happening in Vadyani, so Russians are having some difficulties here. Fighting in Pervomaisky continues, as Russians are still unable to advance within E50 highway and to the north and to the south of the city. Village of Nevelsky, despite constant Russian attacks, is still standing, but some videos suggest that it will soon be captured by the Russians as they had intensified their attacks towards this settlement. Then we have situation in Marinka. Near Pobeda and to the north of Marinka changes did not appear. However, some Russian sources are claiming that they were able to attack and successfully advance from the center and were able to capture about this much territory, about 5 city blocks or maybe 4 city blocks, but that is yet to be confirmed, so we will wait and see. Situation in Novi Mikhailivka is without a change, as well as in Vuglidar. Russians continue to drop heavy 500 gliding bombs at the city, destroying and turning it into a rubble, as Russian and Ukrainian troops are battling out for the control of the Dacha area. Of course, I believe with the fall of the Dacha area, Russians will be more safe to cross the fields and attack towards the mines. So in conclusion, let's see how much territory Ukrainians are still controlling. Some sources state that it is about 10% of the entire city. However, I believe with the recent Russian capture of territories here, and here, that percentage had shrunk. So perhaps it is now a 9% of Ukrainian controlled city. Some sources and some people are saying that Russians are trying to capture Bakhmut before May 9th to present it as a gift to the Russian command and Russian people. You know how victories are important for the morale. So perhaps with the fall of Bakhmut, it will gain a heroic status in Russian history and will inspire many young men to join the war effort. With that, I want to end the video. If you liked my video, please consider supporting it with a like, comment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, a subscription. The reason why I ask you to do this is the more you interact with my video, the more people will see that video, so it helps spreading the message. If you feel extra generous, please consider supporting me on Patreon and helping me become more financially stable, as ad revenue is not something to rely on. As always, humanity calls me to condemn all violence against human beings. Have a good day, and always remember, Russia will be free.